For those of you who don't know Costas Bocelli, Costas Bocelli and I work together. We've been working together, I guess, since what, 08, 09, right after the crash, right?
14, 15 years.
14, 15 years. He's, was a floor trader. So, I'm from New York. He's from Philly, or maybe not from Philly. I know he grew up
in New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey.
Yeah, he grew up in Atlantic City, another financial market, and probability, odds, things like that. And he's a math guy, he's just really, what Costas gets plugged into. One thing I'll say about you is you are deeper into whatever it is that you get into than I think most people have the capacity of being. Costas was a floor trader at the Philly Exchange. A lot of people think the New York Stock Exchange is the oldest. Philly Exchange is the oldest. New York Stock Exchange came after that. And, we just had a lot of mutual acquaintances, especially one, Ron Ianieri, who is widely considered to be the world's greatest options teacher, options expert. He was Ron Ianieri was the specialist at the Philly Exchange. He was the main guy, like the ground zero, basically, is the specialist. It's the person who's managing the books of any individual stock. Like Dell Computer would have one guy who's managing all the options, managing the options market, making sure it's an efficient functioning market, functioning properly. If he says shut it down, it gets shut down. He did that with Newmont Mining, Dell Computer, a bunch of some of the biggest stocks when he was doing it in the 90s. And then I started working with Ron Ianieri. Ron and I worked together for a little bit. And Ron knows all the floor traders. So, I'd been hearing about Costas Bocelli before I realized that Ron knew him. I didn't even put two and two together. Heard about Costas from people from the New York Stock Exchange. It's kind of like a legendary name. More and more people started talking about him. I mean, people that were savviest people at the New York Stock Exchange would talk about Costas like he was the savviest guy they knew. So then I asked Ron if he's heard about him. Ron said Costas was the #1 mentee. He's like the mentor to Costas. He says Costas was the #1 guy. I said, get him in front of me, and then off we went. And Costas, managed a bunch of services. He's taught probably tens of thousands or more, maybe hundreds of thousands of people online about trading options. And Costas has a great knack for not speaking over people's heads too much. Like he understands how to talk to people, meet them where they are. He's got a son who's going to be in the PGA one day.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, that's Costas Bocelli. Thanks for joining me today, Costas.
All right, it's my pleasure, Chris.
What are you thinking about the new administration coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I saw Trump was on. He was at the New York Stock Exchange today, ringing in the bell. It just seems like just a fresh. Starting over, and it's almost like you're putting clean sheets on the bed. Like the Biden administration was getting a little bit sully in a way. Whether or not you like them or not, I mean, it just didn't seem like there was a lot of energy or enthusiasm, whether it's around his administration, his policies, or whatever. And the American people, I think, did the right thing. They wanted to see a change. You wanted to have a jump start. And they hit the cables, and they bring him in, and now Trump goes from a convicted felon to going on the cover of Time magazine, as he pointed out, for the second time.
It's interesting. So, most of the time, most people can't see what they're currently living through without some contrast and hindsight. So they say hindsight's 20/20, and now that you go into this new era where clearly it's a Trump administration, pro-business administration, pro-market administration, pro-economy. And you might not like the guy. You might want to punch him just because you don't like that personality. But the stats are clear. And then I think people now, they're going to be able to clearly see how bad it was a little bit more than they were able to. Because the other thing is that the media companies, I think, are going to they're like, we can't fight this. We can no longer fight this. We just have to jump on board. There's a lot of people, that feel like either they're going to get crushed if they don't change their tune, and it's just all bullshit. It's all theater. So you have the media companies are going to stop manipulating as much as they used to. Twitter's opened up now. Musk pretty much got Trump elected. I don't know if Trump would have got elected had Musk not stepped in and bought Twitter. That was a really bad thing. He kind of drew a line in the sand there. But the way I look at it now, with even a little bit more clarity. And I saw it clearly before, but now in hindsight, with the new administration coming in, it makes me think about how, there's war, there's a lot of fighting, there's a Cold War, there's kind of an internal, in the United States, sort of like a social civil war that's been going on. And not everyone, a lot of people talk about potential for an actual civil war, which is just insane that we would even be thinking or talking about that. And like, if people aren't making money, if deals aren't getting cut, then what happens is there's a lot of side deals, and the way that people make money is under the table in ways that they're not supposed to, and money laundering, and that's how that happens. People get offended. Just kind of like a negative tone to it, whereas when Trump comes in, kind of feels like deals are going to get done. He gets elected, and all of a sudden, all of the foreign leaders are kind of reaching out to him, and let's make peace here, let's make peace there. I think people are saying nice things now that helps Trump. I think Trump probably reached out to a lot of these folks and said, listen, you're going to say this now, that's going to boost me up, and I'm going to take care of you on the back end. I think you see a lot of that happening. It's just, that's the kind of vibe that I get from the new administration coming in, and the contrast with the old one. It's like, it's all about how they were going to get paid and how different people are going to get paid in weird ways. The Ukraine war, a lot of other things that I'm not going to dive into right now, but it's just it's a very different thing. It's like, if you don't know how to cut deals, then you're getting people paid in weird, shady ways that you're not supposed to, and it feels like now it's like, let's find a way for everybody to win. And that's to me the main sentiment changer with this administration.
Yeah, I think you're definitely seeing a boost in a lot of the sentiment surveys, not just from individual investors, but I'm talking about from like the business surveys, the NFIB survey for small business, which is the backbone, of America, just like our business is. And you saw a huge boost. I think it was the biggest month over month gain in the sentiment survey in years. So you're already starting to see a change. And like I said, Trump was ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange, and he got a few interviews in from some of the commentators that were there on site, and he was just talking about trying to loosen up the red tape. He had his EPA cabinet secretary for environmental protection, and that's where a lot of the red tape comes in, especially when you're talking about opening up lease lands for drilling or bringing on more power like nuclear energy. And he was chiding over, and he's like, it's not going to take 14 years to get approval for a small nuclear reactor. And he goes, how about a week? He goes, can we get it approved in a week? And he was like joking in a way, but it just shows the urgency of, look, we got a great idea, we got capital coming in, be pragmatic about keeping everything health, safety and everything, but get things going online instead of being bogged down. And I think you're going to see a lot of that change throughout the bureaucracy. And then you have Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk coming in with the Department of Government Efficiencies, and I think they really want to get the gears greased on getting this country. If you add more productivity, you cut out the costs. It is going to add to economic growth in a way. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they can actually enact a lot of those things we're talking about.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about those first 100 days of just seeing complete deregulation of especially American energy exploration. I think that should be pretty big. Do you think that does well for the energy stock market, or just the prices go down? I mean, is there more money to be made?
That's very interesting that you say that. So, when you look at the energy complex, it's very diverse. It's not like a software company where you're building, software programs and things like that. Energy, you have upstream, downstream, midstream, right? So, if you look at like some of the pure play energy companies, the independents that actually pull the oil and gas out of the ground, those charts aren't really doing as well. But if you look at the midstream players, the toll collectors, the ones that really do well with volume, right? I think those are the ones that are going to do really well. Some of the energy companies that are focused on liquefied natural gas exports. We just put our subscribers on to NFE, New Fortress Energy. So that chart is going to look a lot different with upside potential versus the other. Like that oil and energy company is up like 50% off of its lows. And that's because they're levered towards exporting liquefied natural gas. Oh, by the way, the current administration, the Biden administration, has actually banned. They shut it down. They shut down liquefied natural gas exports. So now we're going to have a new administration that's actually going to open up those avenues again. And a company like New Fortress that doesn't already have a full book of billing, they're going to be able to grow. So you have different aspects, I think, of energy itself that, depending on where you are in that complex, I think, there will be winners and losers.
Mm-hmm. So I think not just in energy, but outside of energy, I think we see all the regulations that are strangling job growth in this country. And I think driving housing costs higher, I think all that is going to go away very quickly. And I think all these things, like one thing that I keep telling investors for the last couple of years, when the market bottoms out, we could see the market bottom out very easily because we're watching price flow. So we know, like we could see it. Nobody else, most people can't see it, but we could see it. So we know when the bottom's pretty much in. And it was kind of a weird rally off that bottom. Say the bottom in June of 2022, then October of 2022. Actually, I'll pull that up so people can see what I'm talking about.
Put in the low, summer to the fall.
I'll pull it up so people can see what I'm talking about here. So with other indicators, not what we're looking at here on the screen, but with other indicators, we could see that the bottom is pretty much likely here, and it also reflects in the S&P 500, which is what's on the screen. So this is what everybody else looks at. We look at other stuff. It's otherwise hard to tell when you're living through this. It just looks like, hold on. When you're living through this, it just looks like this. Like you don't know. But we're looking at New York Stock Exchange BPI and things like that we cover. But we could tell that this is the low. Here's another low at the same level, pretty much. And then we could tell that this, even though it's higher, we could tell that this was a major low. And usually off of a low like this, 1, 2, you'd see a big, strong rally in the market, which you really didn't see reflected in the stock market. And then now, and so what this was climbing the wall of worry. This is when everything looked like shit. Everything looked like the world was going to fall apart, one thing after the other. Just when something gets cleared up, another shoe drops. I used to call it a Biden bull market. It's like stumbling up the stairs, so it's like a Biden bull market. Like this is what a bull market looks like under Biden. It's really climbing the wall of worry. It's just a matter of a high pile of crap that as you remove these crappy things one by one, the market is then allowed to go higher. So that's the beginning of a bull market. That's kind of the basing stage, or what they call the accumulation stage on Wall Street. And then after the market breaks out, and by the way, this is the S&P 500. Let me look at small cap stocks. This is a better reflection of what was happening to most stocks in the stock market. The S&P 500 is not a very good reflection of that. I'm really getting into kind of like webinar mode here, but which we don't necessarily want to do on this event. We just want to kind of talk here. But you can see with most stocks, they just recently started to break out. This is just like the beginning of the new high era. But the low here, second low here, third low here. This is what it looked like for most stocks: low, low, and then low, and then getting its bull market underway. So doing all this was climbing the wall of worry, bricks of crap being removed, making the smell less bad. And now we're going into what are the positive prospects ahead of us. And then once you go through that, and then Trump comes in and deregulation and making things easier to do business, easier on the energy sector, costs go down, inflation isn't as bad. Once you have that, the next stage after that is market mania, where people stop thinking about valuation altogether, and the only thing that they think about is not missing the next big winner higher, the next explosive move higher. They don't want to be at the barbershop listening to everybody talking about how they made money and they missed out on it. So it's FOMO. And we're nowhere near that ultra euphoric stage yet. So that, to me, is probably the most important thing for investors, is to understand, first of all, that there are stages to the market cycle. Second of all, understanding what stage you're in. Third of all, understanding that there's a different playbook for each one of those stages. And the problem that most investors have is that they get used to the previous stage and how you're supposed to navigate that. And then we switch to a new stage, and you're still using the old playbook from the last stage. So that is like overall one of the top most important things to understand is the stage you're in and look ahead, because stage 2 always comes after stage 1. Stage 3 always comes after stage 2. It doesn't go from the playbook of stage 2 to the playbook of stage 4. It always goes from one to the next. So we just left the accumulation basing stage. We recently entered the markup stage, but we've just broken out. We're not even close to the euphoria stage. We can see it ahead. So it's important to know what stage you're in, because the playbook is, like at this point, what happens is investors, they see things popping, they still are kind of sitting in cash and bonds or whatever, you know, they're in money markets still. They just want to see a pullback at this point. And, you know, maybe you'll get that pullback, but stop thinking in terms of what the general market average is doing. Start thinking in terms of what the sectors are doing. If you're looking for a pullback, buy a pullback in your sectors, not in the general market. But also, don't really wait for that pullback. I mean, I don't think people should be waiting for that pullback. I'm sharing my screen right now, right? So I'm going to look at RCAP for a second. Here's something that I just bought today. Wait, is it RCAP? No, RCAT. RCAT? Yeah. Here's something I thought was pretty cool. This is not a recommendation, okay? This is not a recommendation. I like it. I like it a lot. But here's, I like to trade options, right? So the call option, it goes up when the stock goes up. But the options are very expensive right now. They're very overpriced. The price of the puts and the calls are both inflated. So what do? At that point, you sell a put option because the prices are inflated. The puts and the calls, the prices are inflated. They're very fat, very frothy. So what I did, look at this. Look what I found. The January's, these are, and look, I only sold 20. I've sold very few. I sold 20 of these. It's a small trade for me. But basically, for 130, 130 on $7, right? So 1.3 divided by 7, that's 18.5% that I pulled, 18.5% that I got paid for 36 days. So annualize that times 12. Oops. What did I say? 30. What did I say? 18.5% times 12. That's 222% annualized returns. And I don't.
It's a lot more than that.
Well, if you compound it, it's a lot more than
annualized. That's 18% over 30 some days. That's like 800% annualized.
No, you're wrong. 18.5 times 12. I'm not compounding it. I'm just multiplying by 12. I'm pretending 36 days is a month, so it's actually less than 222. Yeah. But if you compound it,
I'm sorry, 180%. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you compound it, you're going to be much bigger. But point is, that's for 36 days. If you go out to July is 8 months away. You can get $3. And before it was up around 320 or something like that. So about 45% return in those 7 months. And what you're basically saying when you sell naked puts is, I'm willing to buy the stock at that price. So I'm willing to buy the stock at 7 is what I'm saying. I'm saying I'll buy the stock at 7 if you pay me 18.5% right now. And that's going to expire in 36 days. So we're seeing stuff like that. And look at RCAT has rallied higher, pulled back. Look at the volume sliding back as the stock slides down. That's beautiful. This is beautiful when you see this. And look, if it pulls back to the resistance level, whatever, I got $1.30. So my break-even point is what, 570, somewhere over here where the stock basically gapped up. If it pulls back, I'm going to sell more of those naked puts. But anyway, you see stuff like this where Red Cat went from 261 up to 12. 261 up to 12. And then you're going to start to see a lot of those. But right now, the psychology is that people are waiting for pullbacks, which I don't know if you want to really wait for pullbacks in this market. You sometimes can find stocks like that have exploded and now they've pulled back. So that's kind of, it's hard to find. Most stocks that are great right now, they've exploded and they're pretty high. And you have to make the decision whether you want to get in or not. If you buy it, it's going to go lower. If you don't, it's going to go higher. I say just get in. You're at the stage of the market. That's my point. I just want to drive home is you're at the stage of you're at the part of this stage of the market where you just want to basically get in. Everyone's going to be waiting for a pullback. It's kind of a mistake. Even if you get a pullback, it's going to be bought right away. Trump hasn't even gotten into office yet. So the only thing that I think knocks this market down is if Trump gets knocked down. I mean, they've been taking shots at Trump. This guy assassinated United Healthcare guy. It's kind of a weird, crazy. And I blame the people, the corruption. I blame the people that are making money on it, because at the end of the day, it all comes back to that. Because the machine that's making money with all the corruption at the top, and by the way, they're playing the program. They've got the corruption people. I'm not saying left or bad guys, right or good guys. I'm just saying the administration, they're willing to do. They can't cut deals, so they're willing to do this corruption stuff, and those people have to stay in power. And now here you have this person coming in who's kind of going to mess things up a little bit. They're going to mess things. Eventually, it'll get cleaned up, and then everyone will figure out how to make money. And that's how market players are, and that's how the machine that makes money at the top. They figure out what does the playing board look like? What does the game board look like? And all right, just show me what to do. That's why markets hate uncertainty. Like whatever it is, they don't necessarily care who's in office. They just want certainty, right? It doesn't really matter. If there's a lot of fighting and they can't figure out how to get laws passed or what to do, that's a shitty market, right? When they're fighting over the debt ceiling, nobody knows what's going to happen or when, and there's trade wars and all that. That sucks for the market. But if you just tell me what do I have to work with? The bankers, they all know how to make money. Just how do we get there? And now we're in a completely right-wing House, Senate, President. We're in a completely right-wing administration. We're pro-business, very crypto administration. Everybody knows we're on message. Everyone's staying on message with crypto. I'm going to hire the crypto treasury guy. I'm going to hire the crypto SEC guy, and I'm the crypto president. You're welcome. Bitcoin broke 100,000, so Trump tweets out, "You're welcome." It's just all about branding, and there's consistency with branding, and so that by itself is good with markets. When it comes to like the assassinations and all this, that's really the machine doing everything that they can via politicians and the media. Politicians want to stay in charge because they need that power, they need that money, they need to be the people that make it easy to rob the system. They use the media, and the machine above doesn't even really need the politicians. They go directly and use they are in many ways the bad guys. And they put these ideas in people's head, and they make it so divisive and do it to such an extreme level, and they really tug on your heartstrings. And they show the guy getting killed by the cop, and they show the worst clippings that they could show, and they promote that as much as they can. And people think that that's the thing that is happening so much around the country, and it's really just the thing that they're showing you all the time. They do everything that they can to put you in this dark place. And that's what they have to do when they're cutting these side deals and there's all this corruption. And that leads to people taking shots at the president, or the people assassins are put in place to take out the president. And you got this whack job who killed the United Healthcare guy. And you know what I mean? I feel like one thing leads to another, and it all starts with these people trying to maintain their ability. You know what I mean? The things that they have in place for the corrupt system, they don't want that broken up. And you've seen that, throughout history in all different ways, and police departments and, different countries. Or you see it's all different forms of that. But it's always like, here's the corruption we have in place. We need this to stay in place. And so we're going to do whatever extreme shit we have to do to keep it that way. And then you have all this, craziness, like this whack job with the United guy.
Yeah, the one thing I'll have to say about that, I mean, it's really bizarre, especially when you read a little bit more into who this person is or the profile. And it's, this person had the whole world and he just threw it all away, no matter what he's thinking. I mean, he's going to be behind bars for the rest of his life.
25-year-old kid.
Yeah, it's a shame. It really is. But, again, you don't know what the mental aspect of all that is, but it seemed like, he was just a regular person. And a lot of people are resonating towards that. But what I will say is that what he did, obviously no one condones, killing a human being. I mean, you can't really justify that. But what he did, the action of what he did is going to reverberate, I think, within the whole, healthcare industry, of the way maybe even healthcare insurance is even done down the road. I mean, I think that's how powerful it's going to be. And I think Congress is going to probably step in there, and the healthcare was in dire need for revamping, whether it's medical care payments, which are a disaster, or getting coverage, or getting authorizations, or getting the payments processed. It's a mess. It's a hot mess, and maybe that something good will come about it, and there will be some serious reform. It's just really crazy.
It's his manifesto. Here's a guy who's like, supposedly this is the hypocrisy of I'm not going to say left or liberals, because they this group, whatever you want to call them, changed the names and the meanings of so many things, like the word liberal. Like, they don't have actual liberal values. But anyway, this guy was so like in his whatever cult, and the hypocrisy of this is like he's supposed to be Mr. Corporate, anti-corporate America, anti-corporation. What are the two pictures they have of him? In McDonald's and Starbucks. This is a guy who's anti-corporate, and he's in Starbucks, like buying Starbucks. Like, why is he not in the small, mom and pop coffee shop? He's in McDonald's. Like, he's in the most corporate America venues. Anyway, and it's not like he can say, well, yeah, it's all I can afford is McDonald's, because he's in Starbucks. It's buying an $8 coffee. Yeah, I mean, Brian Thompson, right? That's his name, Brian Thompson, CEO. And we're saying that we're saying this, not poor guy, but we're saying this kid, 25 years old, threw his life away. But I mean, this is a guy, he just clipped a human being who has a family, and it's what would be really weird is if this changes things.
Well, that's what I was just saying. I really think that could really spark some serious reform in an industry that really is desperate in need for it. But like you said, with all the, United Healthcare, they are a lobbyist machine. Put them in with Cigna, all the other ones. I mean, they are a powerful lobbyist, putting millions of dollars in those politicians' pockets. Mm-hmm. And that's why nothing has gotten done, because that's just business as usual on Capitol Hill, right? That's just the muckiness of our bureaucracy and how it works through the lobbying power. And maybe this is something that breaks that ceiling and actually opens up the door to serious reform. But you're going to have to break that lobbyist deal.
That'd be terrible in so many ways, because like it was a result of this. Like, if we want more reform, I don't know. I think on one level down, and this is going to be horrible for me to say, but on one layer down, it would be a terrible reason for reform to actually get started. Like, what message does that send? That's dangerous. That's bad. But then also on another level below that, it's kind of like, well, okay, maybe some natural thing is happening in the animal kingdom. We happen to have gotten out of the food chain as human beings, but something in the animal kingdom is happening that just kind of makes us all agree that we need to be more good, and kind of or else. Like, I think in Singapore, isn't like if they find it, like the punishment for drugs is like capital punishment, like they'll put you to death. I think it's Singapore. Well, they'll kill you if you have drugs, or if you're a drug dealer. Not if you have drugs. I think if you're a drug dealer,
like, very strict, harsh penalties for doing things in public. It's very strict over there. The one thing I will say, though, is a lot of times you need some crazy disaster or some type of shock to spark a change. So, just for example, just take 9/11. I mean, just look at how we travel as people on airlines before and after 9/11. It's totally different, right? None of that stuff ever changed with security and things like that, what you can do until planes are thrown, sent into the skyscrapers. right? So if you think about it, the health industry, you basically got a plane being, flown into a skyscraper,
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that things like that, it's very profound, and you're already starting to see like some hearings being set up. Now this Congress is they're going to recess soon, right? And then you're going to have the new Congress that comes in. But you could definitely see, some lawmakers probably starting to bring up some legislation and bills to try to do something to revamp, the healthcare system.
Yeah.
And you're already seeing, look at the health insurance stocks. They're all rolling over. Where's price going? They're going down.
Yeah.
It's just like UNH.
The biggest industry
they're all repricing. They're all repricing that they're going to be less profitable in the future. They're all repricing.
Well, I
that's
think
what the market does. It's a discounting machine, and it's already taking into account that profit margins are going to be lower for that industry group going forward.
We have United, right? Do we use United?
I don't know. I don't know either.
I don't do insurance. I'm the founder of the company. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure we use United. I was taking a shower before this and thinking to myself in the shower, I was like, maybe we shouldn't have United. United's in the news, and it's the, you know what it is? I'm in the shower. I'm listening to Joe Rogan. I was listening to the Quentin Tarantino episode. Gotta watch it, by the way. Quentin Tarantino episode. One of my favorite humans in the world, Quentin Tarantino, and it's on Joe Rogan, another all-star. And I love comedy and everything. But anyway, I was listening to that, and they were talking about this with United, and then so they mentioned that United has like the highest rate of claim denials. And I think it was like 36% or something crazy, which is not good PR for United, which is not good PR for companies that have United, which is a real reason why that United stock maybe even should be shorted. If I'm not even looking at the technicals, bearish against United, because if I'm thinking that, think about how many other people are thinking that. Like, what kind of insurance do you have? United. Immediately, the prospective employee is saying, like, I know they have the highest rate of claim denials. I don't know. That's a strike against you when you're trying to recruit talent. So yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about. The world's biggest industry, the industry that generates the most revenue, is the insurance industry over everything. People think the healthcare industry, it's the insurance industry. It's not the energy industry, it's insurance. It's not tech, it's insurance. Insurance is the biggest industry there is out there. And it's just a fucked up industry because their goal, like, what do their goal is to take in as much money as they can and pay out as little money as they can, which is like, that's not what you just pitched me. You pitched me, you're going to have my back when there's a problem. You didn't pitch me, give me as much money as you can, and I'm going to try to not give you as much money. And I'm paraplegic, right? So I have been down that path. Now I got to the point where I had money, and I just, you know what I do? I just buy the thing I want to buy. Like, I don't even go through insurance a lot of the times. So something might be thousands of dollars, new wheelchair, whatever it is. I'll just buy it. And if I have the time or energy or bandwidth, which I never do, then I'll try to get the doctor and then get them to write a note, and they have to talk to this person, and then you take that and you bring it over here, talk to the burning bush, rub your tummy and pat your head while saying rubber baby buggy bumper. It's like, just, I'll lose more money trying to get that little bit of money. You know what I mean? Even if I have somebody else doing it, which I usually do, it's just a pain in the ass. And actually, that's one of the things that really got me to be where I am now, is like being a paraplegic. And I was just always thinking to myself, like, all right, now I'm either going to be kind of a slave to the government, I'm going to be on government money, because if you make a certain amount of money, they're not even going to help you that much, everything suddenly becomes more expensive. So it's like, I know I have to make a lot of money. I know I have to be successful, because there is now it's not either I make 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 or 100 or whatever. There's now a place where, like, if I make up to this much, I might as well just be on government help, from here to here, so I have to be up here because I have expenses, so if it gets to the point where I'm making money, it's like, all right, am I going to sit here and try to get money back from an insurance company for getting a new pair of wheels on a wheelchair? Really, I have insurance just in case I get hit by a bus and it's like a multi-million-dollar issue. But imagine most of the country, they don't have the luxury of living the way that I live, and they're just bogged down by insurance. We just had somebody here. pass away. Somebody had a stroke and passed away, an employee of ours, Aaron Ledger. And so, a lot of people that are watching this, maybe if you ever spoke with our customer service or customer advocates department, might have spoken with Aaron. Aaron passed away. And, there's a whole medical billing issue. I don't want to put his business out there. He has a GoFundMe, and I'll put the link below this video if you guys want. He has 2 kids, a 4-year-old, I believe, and a 10-year-old daughter and a wife. And there's a whole healthcare cost thing going on. Long story short, he leaves them behind now. That with a bunch of bills, that means bankruptcy. I don't know what it means, but it's like that. That can happen to anybody. And what if he didn't pass away? How much money would that cost? So it's like you are one medical issue away from never having financial freedom and always being, your life consists of you're playing defense. Your whole life is playing defense and talking to people in some other country where there's a 3-second, 5-second, 10-second delay and they don't know, you go ask those people. And the system is designed, the insurance business, the whole medical industry is designed where you have to talk to somebody else and it's not their problem. They have to talk to, and you have to stitch together all these things. That's a full-time job. It's like having a bank account at Citibank. If anybody has ever had an account at Citibank, it's like a full-time job. They'll shut your stuff down. You got to talk to all these. It's like, but anyway, back to the coming economy. What do you think about the criminal aliens being shipped home in foreign countries around the world? Do you think that's going to be the gang members, the cartel members, and stuff like that, or even people that just made it across?
Yeah, I mean, I hope they do crack down on illegal people here that came over that maybe have criminal records. They should not be entitled to stay in this country. Now, other folks, whatever reason they entered the country, if they've proven to be productive, they are part of the system. Yes, they might not be got here legally, the right channels, but if they've been proven to be doing the right things of why they're coming to America, I think you have to offer them some opportunity of a path to be here. And what you have to do, though, is going forward, you have to stop a lot of those cases from actually coming in illegally, and they have to come in the right channels. But what do you do with the folks that are here? So I think you do it on a merit-based business. You came in, whatever, you crossed the river, you came illegally, you got through. You moved to Arizona, you got an apartment, you got jobs, you're feeding your kids, you're taking them to school. They're doing the right things. Those people deserve to be here, Absolutely. Right. But folks that are coming in, they're selling drugs, they're creating violence. They got here, out you go. I mean, I think you do things common sense. I mean, where is common sense these days? I mean, you can really get things done, in a common sense manner. So I don't know. You leave that up to the courts to do all that. But the point is, I think the country's had enough of these open borders and so forth. There's too many dangerous people that can come across this border to hurt our country and the people and the citizens here. So I do agree with stricter policies with border. And even you could see that with the election. So, at first, Kamala Harris, the vice president, right, she was tasked with being the border czar, right? She didn't do anything for 3.5 years until it came time for election, where almost now she's running for president, and she actually started to take a harder line on the immigration. But you could see that she didn't do anything for the 3.5 years while she was in office. And I think that was the nail in the coffin for her, was that I think the American people realized that nothing's going to get done. She had her opportunity to get things done, and she didn't do it. And I think that was contributed to it was a landslide election. I know it was probably by all metrics not a landslide, but considering where the Republican is right off the gates, you're already behind the 8 ball. As Mitt Romney says, if you're going to run for president of the United States, you've already lost 47% of the vote, right? Your job is, if you want to be president, you got to find a way to get to that other 4%. And by the way, you have to get to an electoral victory too. But you know, that's the environment that we're in, and so you could see that shift. She lost that 5%, and she needed it.
Yeah. Well, now I think harmony in the Middle East, harmony in Europe on the table.
Yes, and you also see that you're starting to see a shift in that already. You know, I think the world is going to be in a better place. I think the America got it right, as Simon Cowell will say in his competitions for America's Got Talent or whatever they vote, or American Idol. They seem to get it right, and I think they made the right decision that we needed a change. And you know, whatever you want, you know, if you like Donald Trump, you don't like Donald Trump, whatever. But I think the policies and the people that are going to be running this government over the next several years, it's going to be something for the better. And it's not just going to be here in the United States. It's also going to be global. Like you said, I think that war in Ukraine and Russia, hopefully is going to come to an end. That's very terrible. The Middle East is a powder keg. You know, you're going to see, I think, hopefully a de-escalation over there with Israel and the Middle East partners there. You're going to see more pressure on Iran, right? Which I think is a good thing for the Middle East, and maybe you'll see a reemergence of some of the other countries supplant them. So yeah, I think the world's going to be in a better place going forward.
Isn't it funny how when we talk about Trump, I do it all the time. I feel the need to say like him or hate him, you know, like whether you like him or hate him, because there's just so many people that have such venom. A lot of it's artificial. A lot of it they don't even know why. A lot of it they've been convinced to think that way, I think. And I mean, how many friends? I mean, when you're a kid, maybe you like someone or don't like someone. I think you grow up. Of course, the older you get, the smaller your circle gets because you just don't want to tolerate the bullshit anymore. But at the same time, you know, you see people, and then you see that you appreciate traits. Like if you start looking at the humanity as an organism, like we're all kind of part of one thing. And then you go, okay, there's different human traits because we all come from a million people above us, right? Our grandparents, their grandparents, and we're the net result of a million different people. So we're all predisposed to be our great uncle, like this trait that he had. But you know, if we don't tap into it, or if it's not kind of grown and focused on, so I look at traits. You know, and you look at traits. So I could look at somebody and slice them into like 20 parts, and you know, 4 or 5 of them I could do without. The other 3 of them I love. If you have 3 of them that I love, I'll see past a lot. And it's just it's interesting to me how like the psychology of it is really first the media or whatever you want to call it, the machine. They get people to first think in terms of just categorization. You know. Black or white, yes or no, you're this or you're that, you're with us or you're against us. If you think this way, you're on the wrong side of history. You know, it's either A or B. Like that's it. They get you to really simplify, and you know, and a lot of people just want simplification because like all this, they don't have time to understand politics and the economy and how it all plays out globally. It's just too much. So they just are begging for a simplification. And then you know, they emphasize that simplification, and then it makes it hard for them to look at humans like an adult should look at humans, which is in terms of the traits that they have. And some of them are crap, and you don't agree with it, but you see past that. You know, I've got plenty of friends that have gotten grandfathered in that have a lot of shitty traits, but they, you know, I've known them forever. They're part of me. They're my history, and they're the parts of them I love. And there's a loyalty that's been built over time. So, yeah, it's fascinating to me, you know, and so you got to say, you know, just to appease the people that are still kind of oversimplifying. It's like you got to kind of tell them, like, look, I get it if you don't like him, because he does have this sort of like unrelatable, punchable. He's relatable in many ways if you let him be, but if you close that out and you just focus on the, you know what I mean? Like if you're a billionaire and you're among celebrities all the time, something happens to you, you're going to be a certain way. You know, you are going to be kind of out of touch with. You're going to say things that are a little silly sometimes. You're going to go to Puerto Rico after a hurricane and throw paper towels at them like a jackass. You know, you're going to do dumb things. You're going to make mistakes. But people, they see one thing that they don't like. The media focuses on it. They make you latch onto that. They make you define the whole, not only his personality, who cares about his personality? I want to know what the results are going to be, which is most important. And it's just fascinating to me that we feel the need to appease the simplification by saying, love him or hate him, you know, still this exists. Like we have to lay that out. We have to put that out on the person's plate before we serve it to them, before we tell them about the next part of our thought, you know? I find that fascinating.
Yeah. So we got a Trump administration coming in. So whether you like them or hate them, you got them for the next 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is the way market players think. Tell me what the board looks like and I'll play it. I'll figure it out. I mean, that's my attitude about life always. It's like, just what do we have? Tell me what it is so we can go. You know what I mean? If you're being audited or investigated or anything like that, it's just like, get past it. Tell me what the hell it's going to be. And I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? I'll figure out the best version of that. It's what I do. I don't need this thing looming over my head. Who's going to be elected? What's going to happen next? Is he going to be assassinated? Like, I mean, yeah. So anyway, just back to United Healthcare guy. I mean, the assassin being Guy. I don't want to say the name, whatever, but Brian Thompson getting assassinated. It's like, I sure hope that, I mean, whether this guy, the lunatic, gets acquitted or not, I guess even with a confession, they've gotten around confessions in the past. There could be some narrative. They could put him in a rubber room. I don't know. Maybe there's a prison break. They're certainly not going to Jeffrey Epstein him.
No.
Maybe he'll be the most taken care of guy in the prison. Maybe he'll get the most Twinkies and cigarettes out of anybody.
Extra helping of meatloaf.
Lots of bologna sandwiches. Bologna and cheese for this guy. Yeah, no, I completely, just for the record, I completely disagree with what he did. There's not a drop of empathy or sympathy for the guy. You got to be accountable. Anyway, so yeah, Trump branding himself and everybody he surrounds himself with as pro-crypto, pro-business, lower regulation. Got smart people around him. Tulsi Gabbard. You've got Vivek. I always say his name wrong.
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy. And I always feel like the most uneducated dummy for not, because I mean, I get why everybody else will, but I'm supposed to, like in this business. Ramaswamy. And of course, Elon, everybody else. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, hedge fund manager, crypto person. So he's branding himself. I mean, this is kind of a what is it? It's a cycle. What do you call it? Where it's self-propelling? No, it's this
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Not self-fulfilling prophecy. It's the cycle that reinforces itself. I think the word reinforces in there. Self-reinforcing, whatever it is. You've got Trump branding himself and those surrounding him, crypto people, right? Which basically is telegraphing to everybody, hey, we're going to make the crypto market work. We're going to pump it, get in. It's kind of a way of thanking people. And at the same time, as crypto breaks out, you're thinking Trump administration. You know, Bitcoin broke 100,000. That nice even number broke 100,000. It's like a psychological thing. Trump got elected, Bitcoin breaks 100,000. Trump tweets, "You're welcome," and then the media shows all this, like Trump standing at the podium saying he's the crypto guy. Like he's tagging himself to that, and therefore that gets tagged to him and his administration. He's an expert at branding. He knows what he's doing. So as crypto breaks out, people are thinking more like pro-Trump. I really think that's a cycle that he's kind of established. Putin's in on it. Putin's talking about how great Bitcoin is, and you can't escape Bitcoin, and it could be the world reserve currency and all this. Like Putin saying it. I feel like Trump gave him a phone call on his burner phone and asked him to do that. Asked him to say that. I think a lot of great things are going to happen, Big Costas, SIBO.
I think you're seeing it happen. You know, got the NASDAQ composite just broke above 20,000.
I think you ain't seen nothing.
The Dow was at 45,000. It's pulling back. A lot of it has to do with United Healthcare, probably. It single-handedly probably pulled 1,000 points out of the Dow.
What's the best Bitcoin ETF? Do you know?
No, not really. You know, I think like the Grayscale one is the most expensive, you know, in terms of the fees they charge. I think the BlackRock one is the cheapest one.
The BlackRock. So it's just IBIT, IBIT.
IBIT. There you go. Yeah, so that one I think has the lowest expense ratio, or one of the lower ones.
So you're like the dad of the year, right? So how's your son's golfing doing?
It's been going pretty well. He had a really good summer, and then he had a couple of tournaments in the fall. Didn't quite do as well as he wanted to. He actually has 2 more coming up. He's got a smaller tournament next week, and then he's got a big tournament, one of the biggest tournaments he's going to probably play to date. It's a national tournament in Pinehurst, North Carolina, and that's at the end of the year.
And you're in South Carolina,
tough
right
golf
now, right?
course, and you know, there's 200 kids in it from all over the country. So he's in the field there. So we're preparing for that. And he's also a junior. So he's 2026 class. So we're dealing with all the recruiting. We're dealing with all the recruiting right now. He wants to play. He wants to play golf in college, like most of those kids want to. So he's working hard, making relationships with some of these coaches, doing his own social media, trying to reach out and informing them and trying to land somewhere. And he still has some time for that. So that's what's going on in his life.
Does he feel pressure? Does he feel like it's pressure?
I think he does. I think he does.
He's 17, right?
Now that he's past his summer of his junior year, going into his junior year, yeah, and then the biggest point is now up in the next 6 months will be, going into this summer stretch. I think will be a big important part. So I won't be around much this summer.
Let's try to blow up. As a company, we went through a really tough time. We went through as a financial publishing firm, True Market Insiders, went through a really tough time. Like I was saying earlier, several big companies just went completely out of business. Others are zombies. Interesting, because it was the worst 2 years. It was like financial companies in 2008, 2009, or 07 even. That was our, and tech companies in 2000 through 2003. We just went through our thing. For those who don't know, it might not be very obvious to those who are listening, but with that rapid inflation at the same time, a bear market in both stocks and bonds. Bonds didn't cancel out stocks. There was no negative correlation. They both went down, and just high housing costs and also the uncertainty, not knowing what the hell's going to happen, and the wars are breaking out. Nobody knows what the hell. People are talking about civil war. So it was the worst time. Our buyers just, mostly left. People just stopped buying stuff, and went through a really, really tough time. We bulked up. We multiplied our revenue fourfold from 2020 to 2021. We scaled up like crazy. We multiplied our paying customer base sixfold in the same time frame, and then we scaled way back. So I had to go through. There was 4 rounds of layoffs. Disgruntled employees. Just every time you cut costs to bring the costs to match the amount of revenue that you're doing, the amount of revenue went even lower. So then you had to cut costs even more. And I went through 2008. I had a financial publishing firm just like this one in 2008. We went through that just fine. We went through that just fine. We were on the right side of the trade. We were bearish. We were helping people make money through it. We did really well. And even though it was a bad time, it wasn't nearly as bad as 2022. People don't understand that. Like the 08 thing happened very quickly, and we started recovering pretty quickly relative to what we just did. It was this time around was much harder, and
There's a lot more regulations in place too that hurt, I think, in internet marketing and things like that, right? Weren't there some like meaningful changes being made on how you could message and market and sending out things, and that changed a lot. I think that had a material impact across the industry, not just FinPub, but everywhere it was down. You saw that in Facebook in their advertising and Meta and things. And
well, I mean, because they were cracking down on what they were allowed to do. There was it was actually a big move, basically, by Google and Apple, and it affects Facebook, but it affects everybody. So a lot of small companies, unless you have the whole world as your customer, like Google and Apple do, you have to use third-party data. So basically, behavioral data. So if you're on Facebook or Instagram, if you delete that app and then put it back on your phone, they'll ask you, they'll say, hey, just like many apps, they'll say, hey, this also shares what you do here with other things across, and it also follows you around and watches what you do. And that's still alive and well. Obviously, it's super creepy, but that's third-party data. So I could basically take my most profitable customers, the people that buy the most stuff, and I can ask Facebook, hey, find me people just like this, and only show them the ads. And it's very effective marketing. It makes a lot of sense. It's third-party marketing data. But they began sort of a war on third-party marketing data. And it's led by Google and Apple and lawmakers who obviously they have a big influence over. Just know that the big tech companies basically run the government. Government's pretty much on the take all the time. And that's really dangerous. And these are also the media companies that shape the thoughts of society. So it's really dangerous. And that's a whole other story. But point is that Google and Apple aim to crush small businesses and big ones like Facebook by going after third-party marketing data. So that doesn't bother Facebook. I mean, that doesn't bother Apple and Google, rather, because they already have they have first-party marketing data. They are the one. They watch. Everybody watching this either pays money to Google or Apple. You have an Android, you have an iPhone, covers all of them immediately, and then one way or another, they're tracking you. Very dangerous, very scary. But anyway, so in terms of how you market, some of that started to affect spam laws, especially started to affect things. FTC started going after a whole bunch of financial publishing firms about their claims, and it's in a way it's a good thing. It's a little cleaning out of a dirty system in a way. People are basically straight out lying. I mean, not only cherry picking results, but straight up lying. Not enough of, hey, you can lose money on your trades, which you should do that anyway. I've always found that being more compliant, like following the rules and being more upfront, actually is more beneficial in the long run. If you want a quick hit, you lie. If you want to build a long, a reputation, got to be honest, got to tell the truth. And if you care about a human being on the other side of the computer screen, you got to remind them that they could lose money. You got to try to teach them about risk management, things like that. And that's, pretty much what we've been doing. But also, so we built our platform, and it's not super cool yet. In terms of functionality, it is super cool. But in terms of intuitiveness and user experience and having anybody just walk off the street who knows nothing about investing, coming on and being like, oh, cool. I like the way this little color and bubble pops up and talks to you when, all the little gizmos. Like, that's the next step that we have to hit, which is user experience. But we spent a lot of the doldrums, a lot of downtime when the market was getting smashed, investing in technology and making something that's really strong. Hopefully that pays off. But now the market's breaking out again, so we kind of have the wind at our sails there. Again, during the bad economy, bad market, inflation, high housing costs, like you said, that was prefaced with more regulators cracking down, regulators going after financial publishers, charging them millions and millions of dollars, putting them out of business. We had all of that going on. So that's kind of letting up a little bit. There are changes to the FTC because of the new administration coming in at the top, Trump administration, but it's not going to make that go away, but it is going to affect it a little bit, make it maybe a little bit easier. There's shakeup in government, so that helps a little bit. And people, sentiment's there. People are coming back. Everybody wants to be in the market now. So That's cool. I like to compare it to the brokerage industry in the 90s. There's full service brokerage. You think about the evolution of it. You had to have a broker to make a trade. So you had to have a full service broker, and commissions were across the board just high. They were basically regulated. And in 74, deregulated, and Charles Schwab came in, created discount. Really, Siebert was the first one, but Schwab was the one that everybody, as far as everybody knows, is kind of like the pioneer of discount brokerage. In 74, you pay $100 or $200, whatever, you put the trade in. You can actually call and just say, buy me this. And then after that, a lot of the electronic trading came in, and NASDAQ, had been launched. And ultimately, and then the cold calling started in the 90s. And then you had the full service cold caller broker, and then any criminal off the street just starting a brokerage firm and calling Bob and reading a script, and it was that simple. And then that blew up. And then you had the do not call list. So just similar to financial publishing with regulations. You had the do not call list. You had spreads go from half a point to a quarter point to an eighth to a teeny to a 32nd to a 64th to decimal points. So those making money on spreads, that business kind of went away. I remember working on Wall Street. They were going after the mob at the same time they were cracking down on Wall Street. And there was a lot of mob in Wall Street. So you would see just once every week or two, you would see it like people like a string of handcuffs. They handcuff one person to the other, and it'd be like 10, 12 people just being in suit and tie, being led out of like some of the most prestigious like buildings on Wall Street into the paddy wagon. It was crazy. They shut that down. They really cleaned that up. So that was Elliot Spitzer and Rudy Giuliani together. And at the same time, tech came out, like internet blew up. And so that became online brokerage. So I kind of view this as the transition from full service. We had some bad players, and then tech came out. And so now, instead of going from no tech and then technology breaking down the wall between the user and the trade, instead you have complexity and intimidation. That was the wall. And now with AI and ChatGPT and things, just like people getting their head around technology and user experience across the board in tech, regular people can come in and kind of very intuitively navigate the way around tech, AI, all that stuff. So you had complexity to investing. And because it was complex and people didn't know how to look at it, you had oversimplification that hurts the investor. So little sound bites about how to work the market, or things that you apply to regular life, you're applying it to the market. Timing is everything. Timing is not everything in investing. There's so many cliches. A rising tide lifts all boats. So many adages that are actually false that hurt investors. I talk to so many investors, and they recite the same silly line that everybody knows, but it's actually it's harmful for them to think that way. So that's these complexities that prevented people from really taking control of their own stuff, that I think AI and tech and easy navigation and things like that are breaking down. So the transition from full service cold calling, full service stockbroker into online brokers, I think is similar to what we are seeing coming out of this recent bear market. Because you have AI, ChatGPT is going to be on every website pretty much. You just talk to the thing. Hey, how do you do this? And then they answer you like a human. And it's like, well, all right, I tried that, but what about this? And then they just know what you're saying, just like any human would know. All these things making it easier for people to the intimidation of technology, I think, gets removed. And now we have the ability for technology to speak to a customer the way that I, Chris Rowe, would speak to the customer if I was sitting next to them, holding their hand, and then just conversationally just getting them to where they need to be. I think that is the barrier that gets broken down. And just like full service brokers, they still exist. Cold calling, I never see it anymore. But I mean, that lasted another decade or two. That business didn't go away. Traditional financial publishing is not going to go away. Newsletters are not going to go away. But I think with technology, I think the evolution of technology, I think creates sort of the ability for us to provide a service that that first of all, the customer wasn't as receptive to in the past because of the intimidation. Now they're more receptive to it. I think people approach the internet and things on the internet and platforms with more confidence now. Like they get on something and they're like, oh, I have to figure this shit out. They get on and they're like, all right, what do you got? They give it a chance, to see how good the experience is. And I think that's where we are. And in the downturn, we spent a lot of money on building tech, spend a lot of money on mapping out things and user experience and things like that we're eventually going to roll out. And that's like the competitive moat. There's a lot of companies out there that are in the game. They're like the full service brokers that still existed, even though online brokerage with the charting platforms for free came out. Like they still can make money, and they're still going to make a lot of money, and there's still a market for that. There's still a lot of people that don't want to trade online by themselves, and they'll use the full service broker. But that's the comparison I make. That's the parallel that I think is probably most accurate with where we are. And now we have that competitive moat. So we spent millions, we made the mistakes, we had the buggy platform, now we're getting to start working on user experience. And we're really just, we made our mistakes as a dumb kid growing up, you know what I mean? Now we're adults kind of in this, and we have a lot of things in place now that either a company wants something like what we have, they have to either buy us or build it on their own. And building it on your own is just such a nightmare, that it becomes a competitive moat, So yeah, I don't know why I'm babbling on that, but that's my life. That's my life experience for the last several years. Aside from my kid going to college, that's a wacky thing. She's texting me while we're talking. She's back for Christmas.
Where's she going?
University of Central Florida, UCF.
That's big school.
She's going to be a surgeon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She's
Maya
a different kind of Maya the surgeon. She's a different kind of person, she's and in all the best ways, Usually you have somebody who's smart, like intelligent, like very intelligent and very smart, but they're a little off, in terms of social aspect. She's not off on the social aspect. She might be a little more quiet, but we'll say things as adults. You talk as adults and you kind of speak cryptically, and you guys know what you're talking about just because of the experience you had, or you could shoot each other a look or whatever. And the kid is not plugged in. They're not online. Maya knows, and she'll act like she doesn't know, because she'll, and this isn't just one or two things that popped out, and now I apply that to what I think she does with everything. Like I've watched her very carefully, and she sees everything that the adults see. She always has, and she just keeps it in her head. And then later she'll have a conversation about it, and you'll realize, like, holy shit, you picked all that up, and things that aren't even said. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Pretty darn cool.
All right, Costas, thank you very much for joining me, man. And go enjoy that weather that I see behind you. What
yeah,
is it?
That's right. Palm trees, live oaks, and sunshine. That's
South
what keeps
Carolina,
me dipping.
right? What part of South Carolina are you at?
I'm in Charleston.
Charleston. All right.
Charleston.
Yeah, I know I ask you that every month. I don't know why. I can't remember it. I don't really know the area very well. Costas Bocelli, it's been a pleasure talking with you, man.
All right, you too. Take care.
All right. Thanks a lot.